Hello, and welcome to BSB Preview January Publications Edition. I'm Sandy Lowe, Bold Strokes Books Senior Editor. Y'all know me by now. We're just gonna give you guys a couple minutes to filter in. And while we wait for you to filter in and me to set up the Facebook Live, I have a question for our lovely panelists. And that question is, if you could give your protagonist a New Year's resolution, what would it be? I'm going to start with Kris, and then Kris is going to hand it off to one of the other two, and then they're going to hand it off to the last one.
Okay, what I would want the resolution, I'd probably pick Nico Marshall. She is the main character of my book Scent, and she struggles with self-confidence. She used to have it, and she had two very bad relationships, and it kind of cut down her confidence level. So I would give her a resolution to be more confident, especially around women, but not anymore because of the book. But I mean, in general, I would probably tell her to just find more confidence. So I'm going to pass it over to Nicole.
Awesome. So I think I would give a resolution to my main character, who is Eden Bauer, and she is a professional mixed martial artist. And there's a point in the book where she tries to spend her day doing something not martial arts related and realizes she has no other hobbies. She has no friends who are outside that world, and she has no idea what to do with herself. So I would probably give her the assignment to come up with some balance in her life and maybe some other hobbies or some other people to talk to. And I'll hand it off to Nancy.
Well, one of my protagonists is Val Connor, and Val's a veterinary technician, a single mom, and she had her baby quite young. And she lives a very sort of structured, organized life, the way she thinks she should. Everything, dishes don't sit overnight, sheets get ironed, every meal is cooked, they never eat out. And for Val, I'm wishing for her a new year where she could relax a little bit more and just not sweat the small stuff, and just, have a little more fun.
Awesome. I love those resolutions. All right, you guys all have some ideas for your own New Year's resolutions. All right, we are waiting on the Stephanie Lakes. Hopefully they will pop in at some point. We'll go ahead without them for now. So in case you missed it, we have the lovely Kris Bryant, the lovely Nancy Wheelton, and the debatably lovelier Nicole Disney. And this is BSB Preview, the January 2021 edition. And don't we all wish we were there already? All right, any takers to read first? Anyone? You want me to go first? I'm gonna pick someone. All right, Nancy, you're up.
I'm up.
Everyone else could please mute their mics and turn off their video. I'm gonna hit speaker view so we can see Nancy.
Great, thanks. I'm gonna read from my latest book, Veterinary Technician. It's a lesbian romance set in the small rural town of Thresherton, Saskatchewan, Canada. You can see above my head, it's book 2 of my 3 books. And book 3 is coming out probably in another year. Ronnie Akamoto is a school teacher and has recently moved to Thresherton. In this scene, Ronnie and Val Connor, a local veterinary technician, go on their first official date. On Saturday night, Ronnie stopped in front of Val's house. She blinked in astonishment to see Val outside in a knee-length cobalt blue dress. She was barefoot, parting the bushes in her front garden as if searching for something. Ronnie walked up to Val. Hi? Val whirled. Digit, he's gone. Digit escaped. Ronnie's breath caught in her chest and warmth poured into her body. Val was pretty every day, but with her face flushed from exertion and her hair mussed, she was beyond sexy. You have a mountain gorilla? Ronnie cringed. Starting the date with a lame joke was nerves. Val's expression was puzzled. Digit's the name of Lauren's cat. She asked me to look after her cats for a while longer. Val continued to check in her front garden as she spoke. Digit, Digit. He's taken it into his head to go exploring, and if I leave him outside, I'm afraid he'll run away or get hit by a car. Digit, Digit, here, kitty, kitty, kitty. I opened the front door and he bolted. He's an indoor cat and has 0 street smarts. Ronnie helped search for Digit and finally cornered him between Val's house and the neighbor's fence. He crouched on his belly, his pupils dilated with fright as he stared at her. Is this him, Big Orange Cat? Val sprinted to the side garden. Hey there, Digit. Hey, big guy. Don't you want to go inside? It'll be dark and scary soon. Digit rose and padded toward Val. She scooped him up and held him against his stomach with her feet pointed away from her dress. Got you, Mr. Digit. Now keep your dirty paws off my dress. Ronnie opened the front door and they slipped inside. Val set Digit on the floor with a pat on the head. I just need a minute to finish getting ready. Val smiled and focused on Ronnie, but didn't move. A trickle of sweat slid down the middle of Ronnie's back. She wore a light cotton shirt, but she craved air. Was she supposed to kiss Val? Did Val expect a kiss? Val was delectable and she sure imagined kissing her, but her shoes had fused to the floor. Now Val just stared at her, but her gaze dropped briefly to Ronnie's hand. Oh, for you. Ronnie shoved the bouquet she'd brought for Val into her hands. Thanks for the flowers. I'll put them in water, then I ought to clean the cat hair off my dress and my feet are dirty. Val disappeared with the flowers. And 10 minutes later, she returned, looking less flushed with her hair tidy. She looked as put together as she usually did, but Ronnie couldn't help but miss the tousled look. Val directed Ronnie to drive east out of Thresherton. The restaurant's in the next town. The owners are 2 chefs who moved from Vancouver with their 3 Welsh Terriers they treat like their children. When they arrived at the restaurant, Ronnie parked and jogged to the passenger side of the car. Val already had her door open, but Ronnie held out her hand and Val took it. She felt the intense heat their joining made. Ronnie pictured her hand with a scorch mark, the shape of Val's fingers. She didn't let go of Val's hand as they walked into the restaurant. Valerie! A booming male voice announced as Val entered ahead of Ronnie. How's my favorite veterinary technician? It's been much too long since you've allowed us to feed you. Now we get to spoil you. But I see you have company. The man winked and he and Val kissed each other on the cheek. He turned to Ronnie. My name is Thomas. Marcus lives in the kitchen, but he promised to appear later to say hello. Ronnie shook Thomas's hand, once again slightly bemused at the fact that Val seemed to know just about everyone. That was small town life. Thomas showed them to their table in a dim, romantic corner of the restaurant. Val waved the menu away. You pick for me, please, Thomas, whatever you think is the best tonight. Ronnie grinned up at Thomas. Me too, please. And will you please select the wine that best complements our meal? Okay with you, Val? Val nodded. Perfect. Thomas smiled. Oh, you two are fun. You're going to have a fabulous dinner. Anything for Valerie. She saved our boy Maurice. He ate a whole chocolate cake and Valerie saved him. Val raised her hands. I didn't do it alone. Thomas squeezed Val's shoulder. We know you did all the work. Howard and Forster would have been miserable without Maurice. Ronnie shook her head. Val saved my dog, too. Dover broke into my neighbor's garden shed and ate rat poison. Val saved him. I love him, and it would have crushed me to lose him. Val blushed an even deeper shade of red. Valerie, I approve of your Ronnie. Ronnie, you have my consent to date our wonderful girl. On that note, Thomas disappeared. Ronnie's stomach flipped. Were they dating now? Or was this a one-time thing? Thomas brought several dishes of food and poured the wine. The meal fell into a category beyond delicious, but Ronnie knew she wouldn't remember a day later what she ate. Val captivated her and held her full attention. She had nothing left for mere food. How's Dover doing? Val asked. Much better, but still tired. My neighbor's staying with him this evening. Sorry I got so crazy when he was sick. It's okay. You were upset and he was in danger. Ronnie opened her mouth, but her words got stuck. This evening was dangerous for her. The fear she'd had under control blossomed in her chest. She drained her wine glass, but the fear lay there, growling and waiting for a chance to pounce. Thanks.
Awesome. That story has everything. I love the awkward moment in the beginning with the flowers because that's so me. I feel like I've done that before. Like a lot of us have done that. But there's romance, there's attraction, there's dogs, there's food. What more can you ask for? That was awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thanks.
You can grab Nancy's book on sale. I'm just going to post. Oh, I think I posted it twice. Sorry, guys. There it is twice. Grab her book on sale, 15% off for the next 2 hours. You can also grab the first book in that same series, Veterinary Partner, and I've posted that link too. So thank you very much, Nancy. All right, eeny, meeny, miny, Nicole, it is your turn to read. If everyone else can turn off their videos and their audios, I'm gonna hand it over to Nicole.
All righty, thank you. So today I'm gonna be reading from The Clinch, which is right here, and this is coming out in January, like everybody else today. And it's equal parts a sports book and like a contemporary romance. And it's written in the first person from the perspective of Eden Bauer, who I mentioned is a professional mixed martial artist, but she's actually also the world champion in the UFC. And apart from that, she's also the head instructor of the Taekwondo gym where she basically grew up. She's been there her whole life. It's super important to her. And in this scene I'm about to read, she's finding out that both her school and her championship title are under threat. And it begins in a place where Eden's just been told that the school is really struggling financially, and her friend, who's also her coworker, her name is Layla, and she's trying to talk Eden into changing the school to a mixed martial arts school. I'm not turning it into an MMA gym, I say, my voice coming out with more heat than I wanted. Layla doesn't flinch. Do you have any idea what up-and-coming fighters would pay a world champion to coach them? No, and it doesn't matter. That's the same as losing the dojang. Grandmaster Samoon wouldn't let us do it anyway. You act like it's my place. He would too, she says. He trusts you. That's because I would never ask him something like that. He's a Taekwondo grandmaster, Layla. To tell him his dojang is failing and ask him if I can take over, strip it of all its tradition and turn it into a sport fighting gym? It's uncomfortable to even picture it. It would be so profoundly disrespectful. Do you think he would have helped you train for MMA fights if he thought it was so awful? You're representing his Taekwondo in the biggest, most challenging competition in the world. Not if this becomes like every other MMA gym. I hand back the spreadsheet of red unpaid dues. Look, I promise to take it seriously, but there has to be another way. In the meantime, I don't care if I have to spend every penny to my name. The dojang stays open and the membership for every single Highbridge kid stays current. These kids need to be able to come here. You're the boss. Layla tosses the paper into the extra space of the filing cabinet, not bothering to file it correctly. All right, are we done with dojang business? I shrug. You tell me. Girl, I am done, and I am switching hats to your so excited I might pee MMA friend. Let's hit the road and go see these fights. You know Atlantic City is only 2.5 hours away and the main card isn't until 10, right? Layla cocks her head and shoots an incredulous scowl at me. Please don't tell me you think I'm only interested in the main card. Eden, I know this is business as usual for you, but I thought you understood that I'm going to need you to use your champion superpowers to get me into the main card, the prelims, the early prelims, the locker room, the octagon, preferably introduce me to all the martial artists, Dana White, Joe Rogan. I want to meet the ref. I want to meet people I don't even know exist yet, and I'm going to need pictures of all of it. Not to mention we have recon to do. Recon? As in reconnaissance? She pauses. On Brooklyn Shaw? Isn't that why we're going to this? She pauses again. Because everyone says she's going to take your belt? They're what? I hear my own voice go up an octave and wish it wouldn't do that. What? Who said? She's been competing for 2 seconds. We're going to this because it's close and you've been begging me to take you to an event for months. Okay, Layla holds up her hands innocently. I want to pretend the talk is too far beneath me to worry about, but I've already blown that. No one's told me anything like that. Of course not, Layla says. Who the hell would say that to you? I just thought you probably saw it in Combat Zone. They're talking about it in Combat Zone? There goes my voice again. I have that stupid newsletter sitting in my email, but haven't gotten to it yet. Okay, I'm not talking anymore, Layla says. I try to shake off the jolt. Forget it. I would have seen it in a day or two anyway. It's no big deal. That's just what they do, right? Right, she says in a peppy voice that doesn't quite balance out her slightly scared expression. Seriously, don't worry about it, I say. Just caught me off guard. I'll go change and then we'll head out. I'll take a video of you doing a walkout to the octagon and we'll put some music to it later. The rest of her apprehension melts and she flexes and grins. I cross over the mats of the main floor to let myself through a locked door that then leads to a hallway that then splits off to 4 tiny live-in student rooms, one of which is home. I play around with Layla like her obsession with the UFC is obnoxious, but being able to make someone as happy as she is now is new to me. It's my favorite thing about the fame that still fits like I'm wearing someone else's clothes even after 4 years as the champion. Brooklyn Shaw. I take off my deboke or uniform and fold it with the same methodical motions Jin taught me so many years ago, eyeing my laptop as I do. I mean to just grab a t-shirt and jeans and go meet Layla out front, but I can't help it. I open my Combat Zone email, an MMA news source I suddenly find repulsive, and scroll down until I see it. I've heard her name before. I even saw the highlights from her debut, including the haymaker of a punch that knocked out her opponent and garnered her an early buzz. Even so, seeing a clear still of her where she's facing the camera, I realize I never had a great look at her. She's built differently from me, 3 inches shorter and even more shy on her reach, according to her stats, but visibly stronger. Her skin is warm ochre brown and traced with tattoos over a good portion of her arms, but the angle doesn't allow for a clear read of them other than the cross on her left forearm. The sides of her head are shaved and feature some simple stenciling, while the top is a few inches long and curly. Certain fighters just inherently own an intimidating quality. It could be the strength of her jawline, the prominence of her cheeks, the obvious musculature of her arms, or the intensity in her deep brown eyes. Whatever it is, she's the type of fighter who know nothing about martial arts assume will win. I've never had that myself. I'm tall but naturally lean, and though I'm strong and toned, you wouldn't call me jacked. Chopping off my long hair or inking up more could probably help my cause, but I've never been one to concern myself with impressing the public. I scan the article for the goods and land on a few simple lines. Brooklyn Shaw may just have the answer to rating champ Eden Bauer. Bauer's precision striking has been too overwhelming and technical for her former opponents, but Shaw brings insane power, heart, and an iron jaw to the fight. I won't be surprised to see her walk right through Bauer's best and take her to the ground. If that happens, there's little to debate about how it goes from there. Everything you need to know about Shaw's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is right there in her name. She's Samson Shaw's daughter and the youngest in a family line that has produced nothing but Jiu-Jitsu brilliance. Her skill on the ground is miles beyond what Bauer can handle. I'm not too big to admit the words sent a jolt through me, a mixture of bruised ego, resentment, and yes, if you must know, a twinge of, well, let's just call it uneasiness. I scroll back up to look at her one more time. A rush tingles through my arms and plummets into my stomach. It's not a reaction I was prepared for, and it's so off topic it's disorienting, but there it is. Besides being shredded, inked, and an apparent grappling prodigy who's going to take my belt, the woman is also crushingly sexy. Jesus, that's annoying. Thanks.
Awesome. Eden is in trouble. So is this a like an enemies to lovers, or more like just like competition? Do they hate each other? Do they kind of get along?
It's a combination of like a rivalry and an enemies to lover. They definitely do not like each other in the beginning.
But the crushingly sexy is hard to ignore.
Well, you can only hate someone who's crushingly sexy for so long.
It's true. Awesome. And you have some experience with mixed martial arts too. Did that inform the writing of this book?
Yeah, absolutely. That is my other big passion in life. I've been doing martial arts forever, and I've done everything from Taekwondo to Jiu-Jitsu to mixed to all kinds of other things. So yeah, I feel like this is a story that I never intended to write, but I've probably been subconsciously writing it for a while. I just see fights in my head all the time and stuff. So it was really a lot of fun to write.
Cool. Awesome. There you go. Well, the scenes will be spot on in this book. Thanks so much, Nicole. All right. Up next, we have Kris Bryant. Kris is reading from her newest book in her Sensory series, yes. Very popular. And are you an expert on chocolate? Because Nancy is a vet and Nicole is very learned in mixed martial arts. And so I feel you must be a chocolatier. Is that right?
I am an expert now on everything about chocolate. I actually visited a chocolatier and the whole entire warehouse and how it works and what actually is artisan chocolate. So I it was fantastic. Christopher Elbow in Kansas City, they ship worldwide, and they're truly upscale chocolates. And so I really learned what is considered chocolate versus what is considered candy. So like for example, if you grab like a Hershey miniature, that's actually considered candy in the true chocolatier world.
Wow.
So,
You know,
yeah.
I asked that as a joke and you just killed it. So
Oh, I was all excited because it was great. It was a great experience. I mean, they were fantastic. They took me on a tour of their place. I mean, I was there for hours and hours. I was there at their storefront, behind the scenes in the warehouse, and the packaging and shipping. It was amazing. It was a great experience. So yes, I consider myself an honorary chocolatier expert.
awesome. Well, I am very qualified in eating chocolate. But you may have beat me on this one. All right, take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is Scent, and it is the 4th in my sensory series. It is a book about a woman. Her name is Nicole Marshall. She goes by Nico, and she is a part owner of a packaging company. And she started this company. It started out as a college project with her sister. It was a recycling project that grew into a company. So it's actually a very successful company, and Nico is in charge of, she's a creative director. So she's in charge of the artwork and designing the packages for anything. You know, she's worked on video game packaging. She's worked on pen packaging. So she does a lot there. But her passion is actually art. She's an artist. She is a welder. She likes to sculpt with metal. And the scene I'm going to read is she meets she doesn't really meet a woman, but there's a woman on the train and who shows up every Thursday on the train. So she and her sister Trish, who she started the business with, they're very, very close. And so she tells her, you know, there's this girl and I don't know how to approach her. I don't know how to talk to her. And so it's just kind of the story about Nico. She notices this person by different things. And the very first thing she notices about this woman is the way she smells. And it's not like a perfume or cologne. She smells sweet. And it's always a different type of sweetness. It's either she smells like chocolate, or she smells like buttercream frosting, or she smells like vanilla. And so there's all these different, and she's intrigued. So not only is this woman attractive, she's intriguing. And as much as Nico wants to approach her, she has a really hard time. And so I'm going to start this at chapter 4. And this just kind of, Nico's getting ready to go back to her studio. She has an apartment in a high rise, and this takes place in Chicago. She has an apartment, but she has a studio down in a warehouse district where she does all of her welding, because obviously she can't do that where she lives. You look so strong. Kelsey, Tough and Finley's receptionist, wasn't afraid to let me know she was interested. Cute, perky, and femme. She was so very young, very off limits. Fraternizing was against company policy. Kelsey was a first employee who piqued my interest, but I avoided her. A lawsuit wasn't something I needed. I just didn't feel like lugging everything to the studio. Wearing it seemed like the better idea. I looked down at my new flame-resistant pants and new safety welding boots. They weighed a ton. My long-sleeve t-shirt was tight as a safety precaution and showed off curves I didn't want. I adjusted my new welding helmet under my arm and nodded to her on my way out. I'd spent all day designing Sophia's logo and boxes and was eager to show Trish, but she had a meeting across town, so I decided to skip out early and get some serious welding time in. I was excited to try out my new equipment. Ben had signed for a new plasma cutter this morning, and I was keen to test it. While I was shopping for upgrades, I decided to add to my wardrobe. My old welding shoes weighed a ton, and I was working coveralls that were a size too large. I learned the hard way that clothes you wear could either protect you or hurt you. The burn mark on my inner thigh that I got 10 years ago when I was young and stupid was still angry and red. Kelsey, please call me if something important comes up. She gave me a doe-eyed look and slowly blinked. I will. Have a great afternoon, boss. Her voice was slightly breathless when she said the word boss. I ignored her blatant flirting and hurried out the door. It was a few minutes after 3 on a Wednesday afternoon, so finding a spot on the train for me and my new welder's helmet would be easy. The weight of the steel-protected boots and the hot sun added to my discomfort as I made my way to the platform. The slightly cool air on the train was a relief. I found an open seat near my normal seat and plopped down, brushed my hair out of my face with my fingers, and pushed the helmet under my seat with my foot. I closed my eyes and leaned back. The sun felt good on my face. Trish was having a barbecue at the lake house this weekend, and I was seriously considered going. I missed my family, but the pressure of my upcoming show, I decided to hole up and miss all of spring and the first of summer. A weekend away from my life sounded fabulous. When the train slowed down to Thursday's, no, Sophia's stop, my mind darted to last week and conjured up the image of her walking out to her car from Tufton Findlay, the smooth skin of her thigh peeking out from her skirt as she slipped into her sedan. I loved watching her. She walked like a model, but not with fast purpose. The slower taps of her heels caused a different sound that most people were used to and caught their attention. It worked on me. I would see her tomorrow, and it was going to be awkward as hell. She thought she knew me, and I for sure knew her. I was going to have to say something to her. I scooted my long legs closer to the seat as people jumped on the train. What I wasn't expecting was a slow tap of heels I'd come to recognize immediately. I looked up and stared right into Sophia's eyes. She looked at me, hesitated for a moment, and kept walking. I glanced at my phone just to be sure. Wednesday. What was she doing on the train? Once the train started moving, I stood and made my way to the back of the car. Hi. Trish would be so proud that I was standing right in front of Sophia trying to strike up a conversation. Annoyance flashed across her face, but coldness immediately replaced it. This wasn't going well. Hello. I sat down without asking for permission. I wanted to apologize for last week. I didn't mean to yell at you. We were waiting on a late truck and we were shorthanded. Silence. I nodded. Okay, I was going to have to try harder. I hope you don't take my rudeness out on Tufton Findlay. They're a great company, and whatever you're asking them to do, they will do a stellar job. She turned toward me. Her nearness made me swallow. Trish said she was beautiful and had amazing eyes, but I wasn't prepared to have the wind knocked out of me. I held my breath to keep her from stealing it again. I like the company. She broke eye contact and looked down at her phone. Where's your box? I asked. Excuse me? I shook my head at the awful question. Every time I've seen you on the train, you always have a little white box with a red ribbon. Today you don't have one. I didn't mention that I knew she was on the train every Thursday. I took a moment to appreciate her scent. Today she smelled like cotton candy and something else. Lavender, maybe? First you yell at me and now you stalk me? Should I be worried? I snapped back to the conversation and froze when her words sank in. I would have scurried away in complete embarrassment had she not given me a soft smile. Instead, I held my hands up and leaned back. I flipped into charmer mode, even though my stomach fluttered and sweat gathered at the back of my neck. It's not every day a beautiful woman rides the train. I'm going to notice. She was quiet for a moment. Maybe I'd gone too far. Nice shoes. Perfect for summer. I laughed. Yeah, they're not the most practical, but I didn't want to carry them, so I decided to wear them. My welder's helmet is just as heavy. I pointed to the helmet under the seat where someone else now sat. You're a welder. I detected no judgment in her voice, just a matter-of-fact observation. It's one of the things I do, I shrugged. And you drive a forklift. Sometimes when they need me to, I step up. What do you do? I own a candy shop. She ran her fingertips back and forth across the top of her phone. Did I make her nervous? That sounds yummy and probably the best job in the world. How long have you worked at Tufton Findlay? Since the beginning, about 12 years. I'm Nicole, by the way. It's nice to meet you, and thank you for forgiving me. She cocked her head. I never said I forgave you. You're still talking to me, so even if you hadn't, I'd say you're close. She quirked her eyebrow. I put my hand over my heart. What? I'm not forgiven? I leaned forward and whispered to her, I really am sorry. It was a stressful day because we were short-handed. She abruptly stood. This is my stop. I looked around in surprise. That was quick. I stood with her, and she gazed at me in alarm. I pointed to my helmet. Don't worry, Sophia, I'm not stalking you. I need to be with my helmet. She started to exit the train, but turned back to me before the doors closed. Nicole? I nodded at her and smiled. Maybe I read her wrong and made a good impression after all. I wouldn't say you're stalking me. She paused and tilted her head. As the doors were closing, her voice picked up. But then again, I never told you my name.
Oh, you guys, only Kris Bryant can make stalking romantic and creepy at the same time. I love that. That's so cool. I like the idea of a train. It's a very enclosed, intimate space for flirting, but you also
with a lot of strangers. So yes.
But there's this time tension, right? Because it's
right.
Gotta get it all in before your stop. I like it. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. All right, if everyone could come back. Let's hit unmute, start your videos again. Nancy and Nicole. Thank you. All right. Oh. Wow, ask and you shall receive. Just gonna give Stephanie like a minute.
That was a great reading, Kris.
Thank
I
you.
wish I could have been there to help you with the research.
It was great. It was really nice because the company gave me a ton of chocolate, probably like $300 worth of this artisan beautiful chocolate. And so I took it back to my office. And so everybody there, this was of course pre-pandemic, but everybody just got to eat on all this incredible chocolate, and it's wonderful, wonderful chocolate. I highly recommend it.
I bet you were popular.
I was.
All right, may I introduce Stephanie Lake. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, so you just popped in at exactly the right time because all of these guys have completed their readings. So we are right up to you if you would like to start right away. Why don't you introduce yourself, give a little context for your reading, tell everyone what your book is about, and then you're welcome to start reading whenever you like. If everyone else could please mute and turn off your video, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I am Stephanie Lake. I'm the Stephanie half of Stephanie Lake. I co-write with my husband. And, oh, first of all, hi everyone and happy holidays. And today I'm going to read from my male Regency romance, His Brother's Viscount. Here's the book cover. Beautiful. Full Strokes book cover. This is the third book in the Second Chances series. His Brother's Viscount can be purchased in all available formats starting January 1st at Bold Strokes Books and a few weeks later on other sites. I will start in chapter 4, where Viscount Wentworth has encounters with the only two loves of his life. "4 days of fucking, drinking, and excellent company had Wentworth up early every morning looking forward to the day. He ignored the day's correspondence in lieu of a good day hiking his estate. At dinner, he found himself laughing at Hector's stories. You cannot be serious. Hector smiled. 100% earnest, I swear to you, I added no embellishment. He chuckled. I can envision old Professor Weatherston standing to his full height, grabbing, what was the boy's name? Timothy Blair. Right, grabbing young Blair by the ear and marching him out of the classroom, dripping lemon curd with each step. He laughed. In fact, he had been laughing all day. Hector knew how to tell a good story, and the effect had Wentworth's face muscles hurting from overuse. Tell me again how Blair managed to obtain a bucket full of curd. Well, it turned out his mother. The dining room door opened, and Wentworth frowned as his butler approached, carrying a silver salver. His joy collapsed. He knew with a gut-gnawing surety William was calling, even if Wentworth did not fully understand why he was here. You have a visitor, my lord. He took the calling card presented on the salver, and his blood ran cold at the touch of smooth cream paper. He shoved the card deep in one pocket. At 6 in the evening? That is rather unconventional, Hector said. Something must have shown on his face, or more likely, Hector noticed him stiffen, for he said, Wentworth, is something amiss? No, just an acquaintance. I will inquire about his purpose for the visit and send him on his way. Then we can have a quart of brandy. Hector smiled at that statement, and Wentworth left to confront Will. He went to the drawing room, wondering how his numb limbs managed to take him down 2 hallways and a flight of stairs. Seizing a deep breath before opening the door, he readied himself and then entered with all the aristocratic arrogance he could muster. William Somerville stood at ease, his expression blank, but Wentworth was not fooled. He knew there was a lit fuse under the surface. I hope you do not intend to stay overly long. I have a very pleasant guest I desire to return to. He was not certain why he chose such inflammatory words to greet Will, but after 2 years of silence, his words had a predictable outcome. Will tightened his jaws and curled his upper lip. I am fully aware of your guest, and that is why I'm here. He approached Will, who stood tall and proud, just as handsome as he remembered. Brandy? No. How have you been? Forgive me, but I forgot to ask the past several years in which you have not spoken to me. He wanted to say the words sarcastically, but their decades-long friendship neutralized them. You mean other than worrying about my little brother, who has a sodomite chasing his tail? He stepped closer to Wentworth and whispered, How is he, Ty? He could see Will's chest rise and fall rapidly. He assumed the quick breathing was out of anger, but at one time that physical response had been elicited by desire. Just that thought alone had his quickening. Damn fickle organ. He tried to step away from temptation, but his feet were cemented to the floor. He is well, enjoying his holiday with me. Will left a gentle caress along Wentworth's chin with one strong, calloused finger. Wentworth closed his eyes and clung to the lingering sensation of that touch, remembering a simpler time. Forcing himself to speak, he said, Your brother is no longer a boy. He has the right to make his own choices. But Ty, does he have all the information he needs to make the best decision on who he spends time with? His eyes snapped open in time to see Will's scowl turn into a sour apple smile. Wentworth moved back a few inches. Will had been as close as a lover preparing for a kiss, and as angry as a viper whose nest was raided by a badger. He could not help the shiver that racked his body. For a few moments, he'd been ready to close the distance between them, as if their past had never turned bitter. Stepping away was the only way to clear his head. He walked to the brandy decanter, poured 2 glasses, and set one down. It is here if you want it. He went to the settee and rested his arse on the back. So I surmise from your evasion of my question that you have not told Hector about us. The last words were a lover's murmur. Damn, what was Will's game? Well, whatever his intent, it was making Wentworth feel like a cat, and when he felt worthless, he struck out. Yes, well, that is no reason to tell him. There is no reason to tell him, as you know, the two of us will never be an us again. He downed his brandy, enjoying the burn. When he walked to the door, he did not feel completely steady on his feet. I will have a footman show you out. Ty, I am staying at Stephen's estate for a day or 2. Come for a visit. We need to talk. Wentworth stood with his hands on the door latch, familiar feelings and physical sensations destroying his ability to think. Eventually, he just left the room. Next scene. That night, as Wentworth stumbled to Hector's room carrying a bottle of superlative brandy and a wagon load of apprehension, he worried over what Will was offering. It had been so long since Will left him, he had trouble believing this visit was only about issues of proposition, about issuing a proposition. So why did his body and soul feel like it was exactly what his ex-lover had proposed? Certainly, Will had not tired of his wife. Did Will miss him, his closest friend from childhood, his lover? He stopped in his tracks. Would he take Will back, the man he pined for, mourned the loss of for what seemed like centuries? Was sex even on offer? God, but his head spun from too much brandy and too many unanswered questions. He stopped at Hector's door, which opened immediately. Thank you for letting me read.
Wow, I love that. So tell us a little bit about your plot here. So I'm getting the impression that Wentworth is between 2 brothers. Do I have that right? He has a history with one and a burgeoning attraction to the other.
Correct. So the 3 of them grew up on neighboring estates. Will is the older brother, and he's about Wentworth's age. So they were good friends, and Hector was just, the little brother that tagged along. So as they grew up, Wentworth and Will sort of had a dalliance. Wentworth was much more into it than Will, who eventually falls in love and gets married. It breaks Wentworth's heart, who is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder in a time when they didn't even know that existed, because of the loss of his entire family. He was not expected to inherit, but he ends up inheriting. And in the process, after Will gets married, Hector grows up, and Wentworth and Will meet each other again after, so the family fell out 2 years ago. They meet up at a play on accident, and they hit it off again, and so their romance starts. And this is chapter 4, so it's in the middle of them rekindling the romance.
I see. All right. There's lots of history. Yep. Lots of history and lots of tension there. Thank you so much. If everyone else can turn on their mics and their videos and come back. We have about 10 minutes for some questions. So if our lovely audience would like to put questions in the chat roll, our authors will answer those for you. I have one to start us off, and that is, which scene was the most fun to write? Which scene in your book was the most fun to write? And I'm going to go with Nicole first, because I feel like all those action scenes are right up your alley. Were they fun?
They're a blast. Yeah, I love writing any kind of action, but particularly writing the fight scenes. I was a little worried going into it that it was going to be hard to not like use a bunch of language that people don't understand, but I found that it was actually pretty natural. And even going into kind of some of the technical aspects of what you would do in a given situation, it was just really fun to just take something that I love so much and bring it to people who don't necessarily know anything about it. And yeah, so definitely the fight scenes. If I had to pick one in particular, I think it's probably, of course, the big grand finale at the end, where you know you're waiting for it the whole book, and then you finally get to write it, and there's all this pressure, but it ended up being just a blast.
I find that often you have like one scene in your head when you first conceptualize your book, and it's like the scene you wait for, and it's always like in the middle or at the end, or you always have to wait so long.
Mm-hmm.
Kris, how about you? What was your favorite scene to write?
I always love writing the ending. I like getting it, because I'm a pantser, I don't know how I'm going to get there. So when I finally get there, it's the most exciting part to write, just because everything comes together, everybody's happy, everybody loves everybody. And it's just the whole feeling, you know, love, acceptance, happiness. I like the finished feelings.
Cool. So when you say ending, is that the like I love you scene, or is that kind of the scene after where they're all happy and together and you wrap the book up?
No, it's actually when they finally finally agree, this is it, we're made for each other, we're perfect, you know. And then I always do the sappy epilogues. I write the sappiest epilogues on earth. So this is pre-sappy epilogue. It's the ending where they do get together. So I like writing the ending when everything is. It's a big relief. It's a big weight off my chest.
Yeah, and really for you too. If you don't know what's going to happen, it's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God they fell in love. Imagine Kris Bryant writing a book where they can't work it out.
I know.
We like sappy.
Yes, sappy is good. Sometimes it's too much, but I like it.
Nancy, how about you? What's your favorite scene to write?
In Veterinary Technician, one of my favorite scenes was the opening chapter, and it's Ronnie Akamoto, and her hobby is cycling. She like 50 kilometers, and she competes, and it's spring, and my novel takes place in Saskatchewan, and it's spring, but it's still cold, and she's, you know, got her old bike out, and there's still a bit of snow and ice, and she's just hit the roads, and she's enjoying the coolness and the air and just the freedom, because she spent all winter on the stationary bike, which is not the same, and she's enjoying everything, and then she slips on the ice and almost gets run over.
Just for a little drama at the end there.
just a little drama, and everyone thinks she's crazy, but she just can't wait to get out. Probably how we're all going to feel when this pandemic thing is over.
Yeah, perhaps that's why it's your favorite scene, that sense of freedom and finally being released. How about you, Stephanie? What was your favorite scene to write in this book?
Well, I'm kind of like Kris. I like happy, sappy endings or sappy epilogues. The epilogue was my favorite part, and to make it a little more quirky, I added a baby and a toddler who we knew about them early on in the book, and we met one of them early on in the book briefly, but putting them in there and making Hector and Wentworth have to watch them just made for a really funny way to tie up all the loose ends.
I like that. Me watching a baby and a toddler would also be funny, so I appreciate that. All right, I don't see any questions in our Q&A, so you all are stuck with mine. Let's see what I have. How would you like readers to feel while reading or after reading your book? What kind of feeling are you going for? I'll start with Stephanie.
I love an angsty book. I want to feel the emotions in my heart and my stomach. So that's what I'm going for when I write a book. But if the entire book is angst, it just wears me out. So I like to sprinkle in the quirky, the fun, the silly repartee. But the angst needs to be there. Otherwise, to me, I've not written the book that I want to sell.
I like that. All right, she's gonna pull at your heartstrings and make you laugh. How about you, Nicole? What would you like readers to feel reading your book?
I want you to feel all the feelings. I like to kind of do everything. I definitely have like kind of intense conflict a lot of the times. So I want you to, basically throughout the book, I want you to have that I can't wait feeling where you're like, I need to know what, like whether it's a scene is coming or you just need the resolution of something going on now. I just want you to not be able to stop and just have that, oh my God, I need to know what's going to happen next. And then at the end, I want you to hopefully take a deep breath and just kind of be like, oh, wow, what just happened to me?
I love that. I feel like I have that in a lot of romances with the kiss, right? Like, come on, when are they gonna kiss? Hurry up and kiss. I feel like a great author can definitely imbue that feeling. How about you, Kris? What would you like readers to feel?
I actually write pretty low angst books. I'm in first person, so you're along the journey. You're with the main character as she goes through her journey. So you feel all the feels, but I think since you are an outsider, even though you are reading first person, I think that I want the readers to always have hope when they read, especially in this book. You hope that everything works out. You hope that Nico finds, the courage to do what she needs to do, and you hope that there's forgiveness. And so I feel like as long as you're with them and you feel all the feels, like Nicole was saying, I want people just to have hope.
I love that. That's definitely an emotion we need more of right now.
True.
And last but not least, Nancy, what would you like readers to feel?
Happy at the end of the book. I try to inject a little bit of humor and a little bit of silliness. My protagonists, basically one's a procrastinator and lives like a frat boy, and the other has a house that you could do the white glove on and not find any dust. And it's just funny putting those two together and seeing them work things out, and when they eventually do, and I'm not going to tell you how they get there, you get to read the book, but we know they get there. When they get there at the end, I was happy anyway. I was like, finally, they sorted their stuff out. So just a little bit of fun.
Awesome. I feel like procrastinator who lives like a frat boy is a lot of us this year. So looking forward to that.
I didn't have to dig deep for the research on that one.
All right, we have exactly 1 minute left, so we are going to do a really quick speed round-ish. Because this question really isn't made for that, but we're going to try. Which character is least like you, and why? Give you a minute to think. Which of your characters is least like you, and why are they least like you?
Oh, I can take that one.
Okay.
That's Connor, totally least like me. She does the dishes every night. She still irons her sheets. You know, she never eats out. Every meal has something green in it.
All right, perfect. Nicole.
I would have to say that probably Brooklyn is the least like me. She's just very outgoing and like brash and talking trash and all this stuff. She's got a very loud personality. I think I'm much more reserved.
Excellent. Kris.
I'm going to say Nico, the main character, is least like me. I think that's probably why I have so much fun with her, because I had to do a lot of research and I got to play somebody else. So she's probably my opposite.
And Stephanie.
Wentworth. He overthinks everything and he's an introvert. I'm more like Hector.
All right, so we have a couple introverts and a couple extroverts. A good balance. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us for BSB Preview January edition. Thank you so much, Stephanie, Nancy, Nicole, and Kris. Have a great night.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.